Welcome, welcome. Good afternoon and welcome. I'm the Reverend Lady Mother Sandra Addison-Britto, and this is the Divine Feminine Study Group. I'm here on location at 950 Bergen Street in Newark, New Jersey, Triumph Life Center. And so glad that you're with us today, whether you're live now as we're broadcasting on YouTube channel, or if you're following us later. Would you do me a favor and just hit the little bell that's on YouTube, the like and the share. Share this with your sister friends, your brother friends, your community, your faith community, so others will know about the good stuff that we're offering here. This is week number 8 of a 9-week study. So next week is the final week. And I'm just excited that you've been following. And hopefully you've learned a lot over these last few weeks. If this is your first chance time tuning into this study, well, the good news is you can find all the other lessons right here on the YouTube channel, from lesson 1 through today, and then the final one for next week. So as always, I want to just invite you to let's come to center, ground ourselves, balance ourselves at our center, and open with a short prayer and meditation. If you're able to close your eyes and just sit, if you can, in a comfortable place. Just relax your shoulders, your neck, your head. You may need to move around a little bit to let the energy just flow through your body. And we're going to do a few intentional breaths, breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. We're going to do this 3 times. So let's breathe in together and exhale. Inhale and exhale. And one more time. Inhale and exhale. And while we're in this place, we just offer the teaching, this communal gathering, in the spirit of gratitude for each of you that are being touched by this lesson, by this teaching. We breathe knowledge and wisdom and learning and community together in the spirit of unity of all beings. We embrace all those that are here today with us and those that will be touched by this at a later time. And we offer this time together in the interest of our shared humanity and divinity, for the upliftment of ourselves, for the future generations, our children, our grandchildren, the generations to come. Now, time together challenge us to become more of who we are in our being, in our awareness, in our practice, in our community. Encourage us to be the light that we are, and inspire us to always choose love. Ashe and amen. So it is, and so it shall be. So today, we finally got to this point. We covered a lot over the last 6 weeks, and I'm not going to go over that again today. Next week, as we close out, I'll do a summary. But today, as promised, I'm going to move to bullet number 4. So we've been dealing with 4 areas. We started with 2 weeks on the meaning of divine feminine in sacred scripture. 2, we examined the influence of Western theology and colonialism on the divine feminine and our religious practices, rituals, ceremonies, and traditions. And 3, the last 2 weeks, we were looking at ways of reclaiming the divine feminine in our daily practices and religious experiences. And we delved into why we should reclaim the divine feminine. Why is that important? To have a practice where we're acknowledging divinity, the divine feminine, as a part of our sense of the divinity and the different views on how to reclaim the divine feminine in our daily lives. So we went through that the last couple of weeks, and today we're moving into our final section, which is creating sacred spaces, altars, ceremonies, and practices to cultivate the divine feminine in your life. So this week, we're going to walk through, as I promised, give you some practical steps. As you can see, I am not on the stage today, but I am in front of the altar, and hopefully you can see the altar that's set up here at Triumph Life Center. And then the table in front of me actually brought some things from my altar at home just to share with you as we talk about creating an altar of sacred space. So as we begin this discussion today, I want to just focus on, we're going to focus on three primary areas in this idea of creating a sacred space. We're going to talk about why that's important. But we're going to talk about one, cleaning, 3 C's I call it. Cleaning the area, clearing the area, creating the area, and creating both the physical altar, but also creating a clear intention. So those are the 4 areas we're going to cover today. All right, and so when we think about an altar or creating a sacred space in our home, this can be in your home and your workspace. It could be for, if you're the spiritual leader or director of a spiritual center or faith community, you could be creating it communally for your community. Or for your physical community where you live, because you can also create one in the open space. But primarily, we're going to be talking about creating a personal altar for your private space, for your home today. The next week, we'll talk more about the communal setting. So there's a lot of, there's some controversy and some ideas and thoughts about what is an altar. Why would someone create an altar? And for some, within some traditions, are offended by the presence of an altar, like the one we have here at Triumph Life Center, or even walking into someone's home and seeing an altar. But I want to, I don't want to engage that conversation. I want to look at it from the affirmative and just share with you the value that I find in having an altar, having a sacred space, and then helping you to determine how you will go about creating that space for yourself. So first, let me just start with this notion of clearing possibly the space. Let's deal with that first. So any space, anywhere we go, anywhere that we are on this planet, it's an energy field. The planet is an energy field. You and I, every living thing, the elements, plant life, animals, everything is an energy field. And we're all engaging, whether we are consciously aware of that or not, we're all interacting and engaging with an energy field every second that we move, that we sleep, that we exist. I think we became more acutely aware of this over the past 3 years during the pandemic with COVID, when we became very clear that we're all inhaling and exhaling the same breath, and how important it is to be very clear and intentional about sneezing, coughing, or being in the presence of someone that's sneezing or coughing, or even breathing. Because when you're in close proximity to someone, you're taking in what they are letting out, and vice versa. So that became more aware, more in our awareness. Think about this in the same way when we think about energy fields. Have you ever walked into a space and it, maybe you've never been there before, but the energy, just something didn't feel right. It felt off about it. And it may not have been even the people that were there. It may have been an empty space, but you just didn't feel something in your energy wasn't connecting with the energy there. And who knows what that may have been. And I don't want to make that a negative or a positive because we do not connect in any given moment with an energy field, it doesn't make one bad and one good. So I don't want to create that idea that these are evil spirits, this is negative energy. It's just that at that particular time, an intersection, that our energy is not on the same path. So think about it in that way. So one of the reasons it's important of having an altar or creating a sacred space within your home, your apartment, it doesn't have to be a big fancy space. If you have one room and you're living with someone else, it can be in your bedroom. It doesn't have to be in the whole area. It can be a very small area, but wherever it is that you occupy, and that's your dominant space, where you lay your head, where you spend your time and rest and renewal, it's very important that you create an energy in that space that's conducive to your wellness, your wholeness, and your spirit on the path that you are on. So that's first. When we think about energy and entering into a space and just feeling the energy there, and sometimes it just feels great. You walk in the space and this, you don't know why, but it feels really good here. And you can't say what it is about the space. It's going to someone's home and you just may pick up a negative vibe, or you walk in and you pick up this real positive vibe. But think about it also in this way, and this may be something that you're not familiar with, but much like with the air that we breathe, the inhaling and exhaling that we all share this a common breath, all of us carry a scent with our bodies. And that scent isn't the perfume or the cologne or the musk that you put on to mask your body. Just in our natural energy, there's a scent. And that scent changes based on where we're at. If we're angry, if we are sad, if we're feeling happy, if you're feeling joyful, if you're feeling troubled, if you're feeling confused, your scent will be different. And that's for everyone. And so anytime someone is in your space or you're sharing a collective space, you have multiple scents that are converging. Scents, S-C-E-N-T-S, converging. And so what's important to note here is that my scent, your scent, all of our scent. Scientists suggest that scent remains after you have left any location up to 2 to 3 days before it begins to vanish. And then it will remain, but at a much lower frequency. So it's almost as if that person is still there. It's almost as if you are still there. So what's important, again, is in your space, this is about creating this altar, this sacred space in your home for your energetic flow, that you clear the energy, you clear the atmosphere, and that your energy, who you are, is what the energy that fills that space. And so when we think about, some vibrations, some of our energy, all of us from time to time, it can be heavy, it can be dense, or it can be light. Again, depending upon where you are at and what's going on with you or someone else at any particular time. And while we may not be consciously aware of it, the energy around us, it impacts us on a profound way. And so we may not know, why did my mood suddenly shift? Why did I suddenly start to get a headache? Why did I suddenly, not feeling well? When I came here, home, I was feeling great, and now just something came over me. We don't understand how the energy around us impacts us mentally, emotionally, and at a deep spiritual level. And this is, it's not to become paranoid and become suspicious and afraid of being with people or being in fellowship with people, because conversely, it could be the other way. You can be around folks who just lift your energy. You know, you may have walked in the room and you were down and sad, and before you know it, you feel like a weight was lifted off of you because the energy that you're around is uplifting. It's light. It's not dense. It's not weighing you down. These are the things I'm trying to help you to just think about and focus on. So when we think about clearing the space, we want to create a space that supports and empowers you. That's the importance of creating a space in your home, because that's where you live, other than this body that you live in, that physical structure, and it may just be a bedroom, a small space in a larger building or dwelling. But wherever that space is for you, you want that space to be a space that empowers you energetically, spiritually, mentally, and in every way, and that supports your well-being. You don't want it to be a space that drains your energy. You don't want to wake up in the morning and feel like you haven't slept all night. You want it to be a space that is conducive to you, to help support you. In other words, the energy of a place can support your feeling of sacredness. When we think about who we are temples of the divine. Whatever religious tradition that you embrace, we are embodiments of the divine. We're living, breathing, walking manifestation of the divine. And so when you think about that, think about yourself as being sacred, and you're creating an external space within your space, a physical representation of that sacredness that you are. And so clearing the space, clearing energetically is important for while we create an altar. Cleaning the space, and this is extremely important. Whatever space that you create, it's important that it's clean. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to have fancy furniture. It doesn't have to have fancy decor, but it can be clean. A broom, a dustpan, a dust cloth, a mop, and some soap, clean. Pick up debris, clear your area physically. Don't live in clutter. And that's something that for me, even and many of us, that's a challenge. I'm a paper hoarder, so constantly clearing out those things that I tend to allow to gather and clutter. Keep your space clear and clean. So clearing the space, cleaning the space is important. So let's just take a moment to talk about what is an altar. So an altar is any structure which you physically create an offering or representation of your spirituality. That's the way I like to think about it. It could be for your religious practice, if you're a religious person in a particular tradition, but you don't have to have a religious tradition. But it represents your spirituality. Your spirituality is your way of being in this earth. And so when you think about your spirituality, it's a representation of who you are. And so let's move on to how do you begin to build the altar? So let me just give you a little bit more on this notion of the altar before I go on. So an altar is often thought about as the root of the word is high place. And those within the Hebrew or Christian tradition may be familiar with this language from the Hebrew scripture. And I think that's where some folks get hung up. But again, we don't want to stay there. But a high place, metaphysically, is a level of consciousness. It's an awareness. It's a thought process. If you're creating an altar, which is a high place, that high place should represent your level of consciousness. It should represent your awareness of who you are as a sacred being. It should represent who you are as a spirit in this body, manifesting the divine here on earth. And so remember that, again, it's important that you don't have to go out and buy something to create an altar. It can be made from anything. Look around your own surroundings. And it can be created from whatever you have. Clean it, dust it, and let that be the representation. So what do I mean by that? You can have a table, a small table, something like this. You may have, if you have the luxury of having a larger home where you live, let me just move back so you can see me. It could be a larger altar like this, a table like this, but this table is set up for a communal space. It doesn't have to be something that's big, but it's okay if you have the space to accommodate that and you want to do that. But it could be something the size of this table here, or it could even be something the size of a plate. Like 8 inches or 10 inches round. It doesn't have to be large. If you have a small box, something that you've ordered or you purchased and you have a box, a shoe box even, you can use that. You have a colorful napkin or a colorful pillowcase, something, a cloth to cover it. So very simple. That is fancy, that you purchased something really for it really goes against the idea of what an altar is, because again, it's a representation of who you are, where you are. So wherever you are at in your life, it is a level of consciousness that's representing the high place in your spirituality, in your consciousness that you're projecting out into this physical manifestation. So don't get hung up on, oh, I need to buy this, or I need to, because now it becomes something commercialized. It becomes something that represents culture and the commercialization of culture versus who you are as a spiritual being. So very quickly, we talked about cleaning and clearing. So we want to talk about setting a clear intention. And we may have to just end after this. I may get through 1 or 2 of the other steps today. But it's important to set a clear intention for your purpose in creating the altar. Remember, the altar is not a showplace like a piece of furniture you buy to say, oh, look what I bought, and this looks nice, and this is so expensive, or people will come in and compliment you on it. The altar that you create should be, again, and I can't reiterate this enough, a representation of your own spirituality and your way of being in the earth as a spiritual being, and not from your ego or your exterior self. And so what do I mean by that? I mean, if you girl, lady, woman, sister like myself who likes to wear nice things, that's wonderful, that's beautiful. But those are exterior things. You don't want to go out and, spend money like you're buying a product pocketbook in order to create an altar, because that really isn't a representation of you. Clothes you wear, the shoes you wear, the jewelry you own, even the home you live in, doesn't represent you. You're moving now to a place of the external representation of what you want the world to see you as. When you think about you, not your social media presence, not all the friends you have and who they think you are on social media, but when you think about your clear intention, think about you in the rawness of yourself. Think about you in your nakedness. Think about you that at whatever age or stage of life you're in, that's connected to your core, to your center, to your root, from your very beginning, that unchanging part of you that's always been there. So setting a clear intention for creating the altar is very important. Clearing the area of energy and debris, and creating a space that you can now create the altar is important, but setting a clear intention is also important. So how to build an altar? I think we got about 5 more minutes. Again, what is your spirituality? How do you think about yourself as a spiritual being? Hopefully, if you listen, my sisters and brothers, to the conversation I've been having with you over the last 8 weeks now, this is the 8th week, I try to expand our sense and our understanding of the divine. And whether you believe in a God or a pantheon of gods, whether you believe in a goddess, God and a goddess, whether you don't embrace a God in that sense, and you just, believe in nature, you believe in energy, energetic flow, different ways of thinking about how you are as a being. That's all right. Particular religious belief or is not required for this process. What's more important is that I would suggest that whether you are an atheist or whether you are devout in whatever the tradition it is, we all have a spirituality. And that spirituality is a reflection of our inner self, that unchanging part of us, that as we grow, it's still there, it still remains. And who are you? So it begs the question, who am I? When I strip away all the layers, who am I? Before I was a mother, and before I was a wife, who am I? Before I was a sister, who am I? Before I had this career and I had this title, who am I? And so it challenges you maybe to sit with yourself and ask yourself, who am I? Who am I? And get reacquainted with you and your spirituality and begin from that place. So the benefits of creating an altar, as you think about your own brand of who you are, because you have your own brand, whatever brand you may wear or purchase, your brand is the most important brand for the purposes of this exercise. The benefits of creating an altar include having, as I shared, a physical expression of your commitment to your own personal goals and desires. So it becomes a focal point for when you walk into your space, a reminder of who you are, but a reminder of that higher level of awareness that you have, that I am a sacred being. And I have certain goals and desires and intentions for my life. And this altar is a physical representation that reminds me of that. Having a symbolic collection of and a meeting place, a space where you can just sit and meditate, not on what's on the altar, but that is drawing you to this place that you created, that represents you, to bring you back to your center when you may feel off course, when you may feel that heaviness in your energy, where you may feel like you've been out in the world and you come back to this place that's now hallowed ground. You come back to a sacred space where you can shake off that energy that you've accumulated during the day, and you can bring yourself back to center. All right, so I'm going to just, as you think about creating the altar, and I'm going to continue this next week, choose a place or space in your physical location that feels right for you. Again, it could be a corner in a room. It could be something the size of a plate on a dresser or on another table that you may have. It could be something that you, like I shared, you could have a little shoebox and you put it in a corner somewhere on the floor, cover it, with something creative, a nice napkin or pillowcase, or something that you have. Maybe it could even be an article of clothing or scarf. You cover it. So it doesn't have to be elaborate or large, or it could be a larger space. You decide based on you and who you are and where you're at in your life at that time. If you have a big house or you have multiple rooms and you want to dedicate a room, you could do that. Most of us cannot do that. We don't live that lavishly, but if you're able to, that's fine. Do that. Or you may have a space in a room where you can do that. So in my home, I have an altar in my living room, and I have one in my dining area. In the past, where I've lived, when I had a smaller space, I had one on my sun porch. And so it changes and it depends upon where you're at, what space you have, and what your own spiritual needs are at this particular time in your life. So again, it could be in your bedroom, it could be if you have a spare room, if you have, space in your living room, or you find the space that works. You want it to be a space where it's not in the way. So if people are coming into your space, they won't bump into it. You don't have to move it for them to get around it. They don't have to, it'll be there, they can see it, you don't have to hide it, but you don't want it to be something that you're moving, even for yourself. You want it to be in a place where it's stationary and it can be at rest. And then you think about yourself, as you're because you are the creator of this. Does this place look appropriate? Does it feel right for you? Do you have, does it have the privacy it needs? Meaning it's there, but it's not when someone walks in, it's like this huge thing. It's like, oh, what is this in your room? Is it appropriate for the space that you have? And where you created it at, is the energy relaxed? Because some areas of our home, there's more hustle and bustle. There's more, things that are going on, more in and out. So you want to create it in a space where it's not that, the energy is more calm and relaxed. And if you live with someone else and not yourself, you always just yourself, you have to consider that when you're creating the altar, you're creating a space, so you that may be married, or you may be living with a partner, or you have children, or you're sharing a habitating with someone. You need to make sure that, again, this is your personal altar, that it is not inconveniencing someone else. So it doesn't become a bone of contention, because the purpose is not to create contention within your home, but rather to be a focal point for contentment and peace. So choose the right place, make sure it feels right. Clear the space, we talked about that. Clean the space, clear the space, clearing the energy, and I'm going to talk about how to do that in a moment. Cleansing the space, clearing the space, decluttering the space. And then some of the things that you want to gather for the altar. And again, I just picked some things that are on my space, on my altar at my home. But as you can see, besides the tissues, which are not, I have a picture which is from, I don't know if you can see this. This is a picture of myself and my husband when we at our marriage ceremony. My husband is, as those of you may know, may not know, is now deceased. So that's important to me that it is on the altar. This is a candle that's on my secondary altar. And it is not it's a scented candle, but it's not a flame candle. So it's one that operates by battery. It has a cinnamon smell to it, scent to it, which is great for just creating the energy and clearing the space. Something else that I have is something that was given to me some time ago, and it's praying hands, a little glass piece here that's hand praying, and that's a reminder that prayer is always appropriate, it's always good, it's always something that we should do. I also have, let me see if I can do this right up, move off camera, that you'll still be able to see me. Sage, a lot of people have, there's a lot of talk about sage and a lot of, again, negative talk about it. People often talk about things that they don't understand. Let me put it like that. People often be afraid of things they don't understand, or they will talk negatively about something they don't understand. I would just suggest leave that learning for them to do. You can't open the eyes of someone who has rejected knowledge. So leave that learning for them to do, but I would just suggest to you that the same for me, and it may not be for you. You have to choose what works for you. Sage is a very important part of my the elements that I have, because I do burn sage, but I also use sage in water. So it's important to have the natural element, water, fire, representations of the elements, water, fire, air, um, on your altar. So for example, on my altar at home, I would have candles that actually do burn also. I don't have them burning constantly, of course, but at times I do like the candles. Having a focal point to your altar is important. Again, these are just representations of the altar that I have. And it's not the actual altar. But if you can see here at the altar at Triumph Light, I have as the focal point, you see the white picture. And that is always with water. And I put fresh sage in the water. And so that fresh sage is one of the ways of just clearing out the energy. For me, it's about clearing out the scent that come through, clearing out the negative, heavy energy that may be there, just clearing the way. And so the focal point of this altar would be the pitcher with the water. And that doesn't mean that is more important than everything else, but it's the center, the focal point for as you're creating the altar. Creating an altar with a sense of symmetrically, meaning balancing the size, balancing the what you have on the altar, which represents wholeness and alignment. Because part of what we're doing in creating this representation of our spirituality is representing our own internal wholeness and alignment. At least that is what we're seeking for. Should be, I would suggest, a part of our intentional reason and purpose for creating the altar. So also something that we use here at Triumph for our gatherings is a singing bowl. This is a very small one, but you can also use this on your altar at home. You can this is something you would need to purchase unless someone gifted it to you. But again, it's just a way, a tool to use to create the sound, to bring you in that center place, certainly if you're going to meditate in the area of your altar. All right, we're going to have to end here for today. And next week, I'm going to pick up and just go more deeply into creating this space, how to align everything, as I suggested, looking at the altar that we have here at Triumph Life Center. I'm going to talk also about creating an altar for your faith community, for communal space. And again, this is something you would do in collaboration with your community. It's not something you can impose on someone. If you're not the spiritual director or leader, it would be something that certainly you would want to do in conversation with those who are part of the community. And then the altar should represent the community. Here at home, it's representing you. If it's for your faith community or your spiritual community, then it should represent the community. All right, we have to hit in here. We're going to close. Thank you for being here today. Let me just ask you again. Remember to hit the subscribe button so you'll get notifications when we're live. Also, if you would share this video, this YouTube link on your social media platform. Share it with your community, with your friends, with your partners in ministry, and let them know that we'll be back next week, 2 to 2:30 for 30 minutes. It'll be our 9th and final week of this session, the Divine Feminine Study Group. We've been these past 8 weeks, ending next week, in search of the goddess, or in search of goddess. And then we're going to move on to another topic. So thank you so much. I enjoyed being here with you today. I pray that you have gotten something out of this lesson. And as always, you can send me an email at triumphlifecenter@gmail.com. I will respond to you. You can also leave a comment or a question on YouTube. There's a little button that says comment and a space where you can write that in. I look at those and I will respond to you. Until next week, be safe. Remember, you are sacred and you are safe and you are loved. May Goddess be with you. Ashe and Amen.